season 4, episode 7, Low Key Trippin', dedicated to our girl Molly. It was directed by Jay Ellis. I really thought he was going to direct his own episode, but I'm actually
I think
here
that's difficult.
directing this one, huh?
I think that's really difficult.
That's why I was hoping that's what it was going to be. I was like, ooh, that would have been good, but I'll take it.
You wanted the complexity.
He did good with Molly. He did good.
Yeah. I didn't know he directed it, but it was good. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he killed it. So the show opens up with Molly at the Ethiopian restaurant. Oh,
ooh, that was so tea. That was so tea.
When they showed the sign, I said, I know it's not the same day, is it? And then, so we see Molly at the Ethiopian restaurant. Issa left on the previous episode. When she saw Molly, we see Molly notice Issa and then pick up her phone, waiting for Issa to enter. So do you think Molly had a right to be upset Issa did not come to that restaurant? And do you think it was too early, if she did, for them to even have that talk? The block party was just really the night before, I think.
Yeah, it was.
Mm-hmm. I don't think Molly had a right to be upset because when she noticed Issa, it then became an equal playing field. Like she had just as much right to go to Issa as she thought Issa was coming in and was going to talk to her. So she really did not have a right to be upset.
That would have actually been weird though. If you see somebody coming in and you rush out to try to, confront it, like you would have naturally waited on, if it was you and a friend you had a problem with, oh, they coming in. Well, I guess she said, here we go. So she was just for that conversation, but she didn't get that chance because Issa left. And honestly, I think she kind of did have a right to be mad because it's kind of put her, number one, she probably should have reached out to Issa beforehand because that whole day had passed and she didn't make no contact either. But it's like nothing happened ultimately because Issa did what she had done previously, which is avoid the situation in general.
Man, because the whole here we go was kind of like, whether it was the Ethiopian restaurant or Issa texting her, Issa calling her, it's just like, to me, it felt like it was the expectation that she's coming to me, whether it's a random bump in or not. That's kind of what I felt it, because she's just like, here we go. Then the whole pick up your phone, try to act like you cool, like she expected.
That's the part that made me mad the most, was like, you see her.
Yeah.
Honestly, when you think about it, had Molly just been staring at the door, Issa and her would have made the eye contact.
Yeah.
Right.
Because Karen, what's the difference between her picking up her phone to try to act like she didn't notice her and Issa leaving? What's really the difference?
They both reacted.
There isn't one to me.
They both reacted the same way. And in this episode, we see that Molly's low-key saw her first, and if she really wanted that interaction, she would have just kept looking at the door. Because if I wanted to talk to you, I just would have been looking at the door like, I'm in here, like, come in here.
Yeah. But you wanted to seem unbothered. You wanted to seem all cool. And you even had the little smile thing going.
You just wanted to...
She had the smirk on.
Awkward. It was awkward, honestly.
Yeah. But I do think she really thought that Issa was, like, going to come and apologize to her, and I think it took her back that like Issa was like, nah.
Yeah. Because that here we go.
About you, Molly.
That here we go spoke volumes. Here we go.
Mm-hmm. Like we done been through this before. This how it always goes. And I think when it didn't happen like that, she was kind of like, oh.
Yeah.
We see Molly and Andrew getting ready for their big vacation. Molly and Andrew, that she saw Issa, she dodged her. We heard Issa blame Molly last episode, and now we hear Molly blaming Issa. Knowing both parties are waiting for the other to reach out, is their relationship still mendable? I feel like I ask this every week because it's like different things keep happening where it's like, is it still mendable? Can they still be friends?
Yeah.
It can be friends. It can be.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Unless you sleep with your best friend, man, everything is mendable.
everything is mendable.
Let's stick to the show. Let's stick to this show.
This show. Yes, I definitely think their relationship is definitely mendable, and knowing that both parties still seem to want the other to reach out, or whatever we see each week, it's coming back. They're gonna be back. They're gonna be stronger than ever.
I noticed that Andrew hesitated when she was talking to him about.
So that was a very important thing.
We might get into that, but there's some stuff with Andrew and her dynamic.
We can go back. We definitely have some questions around Andrew and Molly, but for that particular scene, I did peep like Andrew's hesitation, like,
Right. I think that he thinks that like this is just blown out of proportion like the rest of us do, but he probably don't want to, like he probably wants to make it seem like he's supportive of her and he has her back, but I know he's like, this is silly.
He's passive.
Well, I have some questions definitely in here about Molly's relationship. And what I took from the episode, and I can't wait to see, especially the guys' opinions on it. So at work, Molly snaps on her assistant. I was like, damn girl, Molly seems to be in need of this vacation with Andrew. Do you think her lashing out on others is related to her feelings about the potential loss of her best friend, or does she have a reason to snap on that assistant?
All right, so I knew this was gonna be a slide. I feel like she had, but I legit feel like she had a reason to snap. The reason why I say that is because and I look at it within like my own world. People at that level, like Molly, obviously, she makes a lot of money, so she's in a role to where like she might not necessarily be in the details of everything. So she can't afford to be, doing certain things. So that's why she has an assistant to do that stuff for her. And she can't afford to go into a meeting if she's not, up to date on everything that's happening and afford to look stupid in front of her peers. So it's the same thing, I guess, from what I see within my world. So I definitely feel like she has a reason to lash out. I feel like people might say that because she's like the assistant is Black. But at the end of the day, I mean, we all getting a check, you know what I'm saying? I feel like sometimes we do tend to slack within our own environments. So, yeah, I agree. She did have a reason to snap.
A lot of people on social media have also been agreeing, and I mean, they basically said what Tony just said. Like I was shocked to see that it wasn't like, because like he said, a lot of people are not feeling Molly right now. Mm-hmm. And of course, they're not going to be on her side. But I was surprised to see like that people were agreeing with her reaction to the assistant. Now, I didn't like her delivery, but she was correct. And I mean, what are you getting paid to do?
Right. Yeah, I thought she definitely had a reason to feel some kind of way, for sure. But maybe not as snippy as that. Maybe like in the future, please make sure. Like she could have been stern without being snappy, is what I feel.
And would she have been snappy if her personal life wasn't the way it was? Probably not. It's justified because her assistant dropped the ball. We all understand that she dropped the ball, and Molly is under more pressure than she would have been because of that fumble. So that's understandable. But would she have done that if the rest of the life, rest of her life wasn't going the way it was? Probably not.
Right. Yeah, that was my whole thing, was the delivery of it. And I was just like, but then I kind of was like, I don't know, because I'm not in that life. I ain't got no assistant, and I don't, you know what I mean? I don't have anybody making me look stupid. So I'm responsible for my own shit, scheduling. I was like, I ain't rich enough.
And Andrew are off to Mexico. With Molly almost missing the plane, we see Kim Fields on the plane.
Yes, no, what was that joke? He said, "Why did you do a complete 360?" Boy,
right. Kim Fields was going through it on that plane.
Yes,
she
was.
I was feeling so bad, but first of all, she cut the dreads off. I was in shock.
She cut the dreads. I didn't realize that she cut the dreads.
Me either.
She cut the
dreads.
I was like,
she looked the fuck good, though.
Something is different about her.
I don't think I ever knew she had dreads.
I said she looks the fuck good. She looks good.
Like Regine up on there. I was like,
she did look like Regine. I was like, okay,
Kim.
Yeah. So Molly and Andrew, they fool around on the plane after discussing Victor's Andrew's brother, elaborate plans for the group in Mexico. It seems that we are finally able to see some kind of spark between the two. Does it finally seem like the two of them are good for one another in this?
Brandy.
It feels as if Andrew is a good partner. I think Molly's still the worst. Like he's very. I just feel like he has shown us like why he deserved the chance in the first place in this whole episode, but I still feel like she's not deserving.
Yeah,
I agree.
I also feel like in time we'll also get more of a background of his story and his family story. And I really want Molly to be able to put her feelings aside, her issues aside, to really be there for him. Like whatever's going on with his sister is some mess. It's gonna be some mess. So Molly's going to have to take Molly out of it and be there for Andrew. Will she be able to do that is the question.
It finally seems like he is on the same page with her as opposed to Molly being light years ahead of him in this relationship. They finally feel like they're at least on the same page.
Yeah.
So I think this episode we learned a lot more about Andy. And one of the things,
call him Andy. Don't call him Andy.
It's one of the things that I picked up on it, which I kind of felt like this before. Bruh is real passive. I don't know if this is the point where, this is probably the best to bring that up, but like the part about him liking her to take control seems to be like the main idea of their relationship. He definitely, and not just with Molly.
Are you saying this as a critique, or you just acknowledging a personality trait?
I'm just saying that that's going to be an issue moving forward with their relationship, because Molly is one of those people who, if her shit goes unchecked, you see how it's become. So I don't think that that's about to be cool, because we see that Andrew actually be thinking some shit, but he don't be saying the shit whenever Molly needs to be checked. Yeah. And I think that's been a little odd to see that continue.
Right.
Even though that's been bothering me.
And even when he does say stuff like he says really passive, it's kind of like, okay, like he doesn't like dive into it or like dissect it. He'll just say something like real surface level, and she'll rebuff how she does, and that's it.
Is it a problem that he's not a confrontational person?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. That's why I asked him if you're saying it as a critique or you just because I don't see him as like he does have a more passive personality, but I definitely think it's because some of this shit just don't matter as much to him. And if you give Molly the opportunity to heart, that damn Molly is gonna heart. And she is just going to keep going on with it. And I think his personality is just too chill, and he ready to move on to the next thing because this isn't that big of a deal.
Right.
And he's a laid back person.
I definitely think he's showing her just different ways to react to situations. And again, we learned this throughout the episode, especially, with the conversation post the argument with his brother when he's like, this, we don't want it to fester. Like, he just doesn't have time. I don't think he got time. He really doesn't.
Yeah. Because we've seen him be kind of outspoken with Molly, like in the beginning, and he says what he needs to say.
Yeah, he said what he needs to say now.
Yeah. So
even with the scene with Nathan, like he low-key was like, hold up now.
Right. Which I appreciated, because I was like, why you're not gonna be talking about his friend like that in his face.
Right. I think he checked what needs to be checked. He checks.
Yeah. So that's what I think about him. He's just more laid back. We ain't about to give Molly the opportunity to keep talking about this thing because it ain't that deep.
He is obviously a more patient person than
definitely more patient, more understanding than the average.
So I notice this too, or maybe it might not be a big, but so since we're on the theme of like Andrew, being passive, some things not being, but making sure that Molly's good. One of the things I did realize is that, like, in the moment, in this particular scene, when he's talking to the airline attendant, like he's the stewardess, he's saying like, I have economy plus, I want this, that, and the pluses. So is Andrew truly fine with, you know what I'm saying, whatever service he's receiving? But is he making sure on this trip Molly's good because she's accustomed to certain things? Like, that's just one of the things I kind of.
Economy plus.
I think Andrew's just that type of guy, personally. I mean, I don't know. I just think he's that type of guy.
If he really wanted to like accommodate Molly, they would have been in first class. That's why I was like, oh, economy plus is definitely Andrew's choice, and he's getting all his perks. Like whenever he travels, he make sure he gets his perks of what he paid for.
All right, so we need Andrew's brother Victor and the sister-in-law Lydia. So I call her Layla. Oops. Lydia.
Wait, I thought her name was Layla.
I think it was Lydia, if I'm not mistaken.
Layla might be the other sister. I don't know.
Somebody named I don't remember that one.
I think her name was Layla. I think her name was Layla.
Okay, we go.
Or Lila, maybe.
It was something like, yeah. The sister-in-law was overly complimentary. Was there anything hidden with this? Like, were y'all? I was like, what is going on with the compliments? Like,
she was trying too hard and trying because she was black.
I think she was trying to make her comfortable because she was black.
Yeah, I agree. She probably knew that the brother was gonna say some mess that was gonna cause the issue anyway. So she's like, let me be overly nice. So that I can buffer. I can be a buffer.
Did Molly fit in well with the family immediately?
No.
No. Off gate, you didn't think so?
Off gate, I thought it was okay. The sister-in-law was just doing the most. That's how I felt. Like, I was like, girl, you're making me uncomfortable.
The brother was too. I mean, Andrew tried to warn Molly of like how he was with scheduling, but he was still like from jump. He was like, hey, like,
I'll see you in 15
minutes. There's free guac out there when they've already said like multiple times we've had a long flight. Like, we'll just meet you guys there when we get there. Give us an hour. And he's like, I'm just saying. Like, no.
Devil's advocate.
He would have got cussed out. But.
Molly and Andrew have yet another sex scene. My eyes are rolling at this point. On the balcony, it seems like all they are doing is smashing. Is there anything more to their relationship? Is there anything more? They
have a healthy sex life.
I think it's more. I mean, who doesn't want to have sex when you get into this nice room, a balcony, like you're excited to get there?
Thinking about previous episodes as well, I just feel like they only be smashing. I just.
Well, maybe we don't usually delve into their relationship to see much more, but it's what's been like months now at this point. So
yeah, they doing a lot of fucking.
They do. That is primarily what we see.
Between the two of them, I'm like, okay, is there a connection or is it going to be?
Boy, when that nigga said, I must have, but when he said, I must have misunderstood the assignment, I was hollering.
It's so funny.
And you know what's interesting about that?
Yeah, that's all.
This might be the first time that I ever looked at Molly as if she was basic, like in the bedroom, because she just seemed like a freak in the first couple seasons, and then at that point I was like, she seemed like she's just I'm cool with this.
I should have got my feather.
Yeah,
it was on sale. It was on sale.
I ain't gonna say she was basic, but
the men were not here for her lingerie.
Hold on, I was very much so here.
The men on Twitter were sick of it. They were sick of it.
Molly looked good. Yeah,
she looked good, but it was safe. It was safe.
They said it looked good, but the cake looked dry, boy.
Hey,
that cake wasn't dry in that leopard print swimsuit.
Hey, listen.
But Molly said the cake was dry. That's funny.
Molly also didn't.
She got her own issues going on lately. Anyway, so we'll talk about that after this.
Does it need to be edited out?
Listen to what you hear.
Yeah, edit that one out.
Molly and Andrew go hiking with the family and then ziplining. Molly is definitely out of her element, but seems to end up enjoying the day overall. Do we enjoy seeing the loosened up Molly?
Molly is Molly, honey. Okay. Molly is Molly.
Do we think Andrew brings out or brought out a good side of Molly this episode?
I think Molly was trying to get there, period. Like, she knew that she needed this and it was a good time for her to release. Like we all are with vacation. Like by the time I personally get one, it's like I don't work so much that I really, 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 really need it. And I'm going to make sure that I can get the release that I need. And I feel like she was looking for it. Like once she got up to the top of that hike, she was like, it was worth it. And I think that was more than just the fact that it was a 3-mile hike. Like she's, finally getting the release a little bit.
3 miles. How long was your hike in the Haitian wilderness, Jamal?
Oh my God, 10 miles straight up the mountains. It was 10. Well, I think 10 miles total. It took hours, and I almost died. And I didn't know that I didn't actually plan to do this. My shoes that gave out on me, all my muscles cramped up. Don't bring up that's
I didn't mean to bring up such a delicate subject. I just wanted comparison, but I see that it's still a touchy subject.
But they say for real hikes, there are like you need to wear like hiking shoes. They say like regular like running shoes or walking shoes do not cut it for real hikes.
I'm getting their AMRATs pluses on in that scene. I was like, girl, it's not a fashion show. Get that outfit. Clean like that. Okay, so
his fine self.
Ethan FaceTimes Andrew and we hear Issa's voice. Molly criticizes Issa once more, and Andrew reveals that Nathan had mental health issues and explains his disappearance a little bit. What thoughts crossed Molly's mind, do you think? Did she feel bad about turning him away from the previous season, you think?
I think she, in that instance, she showed concern because she was like, does Issa know? And Andrew kind of like pivoted back to like, that ain't our business, kind of. But I did notice that like she did kind of pause and think about it. So I was hoping that was like a genuine like, oh, like, does my homegirl know that? But at the same time, I think it's just so weird that she's always judging the fact that Issa like wants to move on from things and like not have drama. Like it's funny because she attributes Issa like not wanting to have drama as Issa likes drama. But I'm like, I really think it's Issa just like there's really no reason to dwell, but Molly's a dweller, so she doesn't understand that.
Yeah, it's so contradicting how she calls those things in Issa's life messy. Like she's just like, but she messy anyway. So, and it's just like every time Issa avoids something, or every time Issa chooses not to, like you said, not to like dwell on it or harp on it, for some reason that makes Issa messy, and that is very weird. And I'm not gonna say every time, but I feel like I noticed it more because her examples of messy Issa in this episode were kind of just like, I don't know about that, Molly.
Right.
So do you think if Nathan was to reveal this to Issa, do you think that this could change their dynamic? Like, will it kind of switch up how Issa feels towards him? You think it'll make it spicier? We're gonna see them pop off? Like,
I'm actually surprised that it had taken this long. But I guess it took, they had to get the block party off the ground, and that was the focal point of it. But I definitely expected him to be reintroduced, and I definitely expected it to be an explanation about his mental health, because it didn't just seem like a typical ghosting situation. As a frequent ghoster, I have ghosted a lot.
I'm glad you're on the call tonight.
Oh, listen. And most of the time, when somebody ghosts and they hit you back up, it don't always mean that they were going through something, sometimes it's like, I just wanted to see if I could still get in there. And I didn't feel like that's what Nathan was doing whenever he tried to come back to Issa. I definitely felt like, you know, he was really going through something, especially because when they had that talk, he kind of looked like he wanted to say something, but he couldn't. So I definitely wanted them to address it. I think that whenever him and Issa have that conversation, you know, she may be a little more supportive of the idea, you know, that it was mental health. She might be thrown off, but I think she will be supportive of the idea and be like, oh, well, I didn't know. You know, they kind of have moved past it at this point anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely seem to be. I mean, I'm sure we're going to eventually want or see her ask him what the hell happened.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely hope so. But I'm glad they gave us that little piece of like information, because I felt like everybody was like, where, but seriously though, where did he go?
Yeah.
I thought he was locked up, to be honest. But he probably was just locked up in a different way, different place.
Locked up, they won't let me out.
All righty, so Molly they had sex again. I'm sick of it. And this time
what is wrong with them? They're not fucking peace. Damn.
It just seems to me like that's all they do. And then to the point that we know that Andrew doesn't really address his issues with Molly because he's a non-confrontational guy. I just feel like what's the stuff? Where is the substance? But
you know what? I think I'm just about to attribute this to the network. I think in the contract, the network says you have to have a certain amount of sex.
Home box office said it needs to
I think HBO says you have to have X amount of sex per season.
If you want to be on the late night, yeah.
And this one, we had gone through too many episodes without sex, so they were like, we gotta catch up.
But it was enough. No shade. Like I wasn't really here for the Molly.
Yeah, I don't think we had the sex scene in like 2 episodes.
Yep.
So they're like, all right, guys.
We was overdue, Karen. We was overdue. Right. She looked great. She just didn't convince me that she was really about that life.
Jim-Rob, please go on Twitter watch the people flaming that lingerie, boy.
Why are they talking about
it? I'm gonna have to find
I thought the lingerie was cute. I thought she looked cute.
I thought it was cute too. It was like your basic run-of-the-mill lingerie, but I didn't have a problem with it. I was like, it's all right.
They just want to see her naked. That's what that was. They want to see her ass naked. Shit.
To be quite honest.
You just want to see her naked. Then we get to where it really pops off. So at the pool, Molly gets to a towel, goes to get a towel, and is told she can't get a towel without a key card. Molly goes back to the pool and is irritated by the situation. After telling the story, Andrew's brother decides to play devil's advocate about what happened, which causes a huge blowout in the pool. Did Andrew's brother have a point when saying you don't have to give it so much power when speaking about racism?
No, he can go away.
He didn't have a general point, but I low-key got what he was meaning in that moment. I think Molly went too hard about it. The fact that she came back and acted like her mood was like just completely ruined. And I'm just like, girl, you done snatched the thing. You done cussed the girl out, which I thought the whole thing was funny. Marty said, girl, give me that damn towel or something, she said. I thought the whole thing was like completely funny, but then she was back and she is just like completely like over the top mad about it. And I'm just like, you're on vacation. Like, to me, it may be a thing to discuss, but like, just kind of chill a little bit, because I'm just like,
I mean,
you also know that those
family, you're just meeting the family.
Yeah, when you come back,
it was just an intense conversation that.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
We haven't even seen Molly and Andrew talk about race with one another, because at one point Molly was hesitant about dating Andrew off the strength that he was Asian. We haven't even seen them dive into that. So for it to be this whole blow up with the brother, it was like, girl, let it go.
You can't really run into conversations like that when you don't even know people, because one or two comments from people don't make you know them, especially from another minority themselves, no matter how how you may think of them overall, but he is a minority himself. But it's just like this one comment that he made, now you about to try to give him a whole lesson. You don't know him. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, it was too much for me. It was way too much for me.
Well, you refer to him as a minority himself. However, Molly says there's some people of color pick and choose when to play the color card. She offends everybody in the pool. Everybody with him. It says that Andrew is the exception. Was Molly wrong for saying this statement?
It was a swing and a miss. Molly did what a lot of people who she put her foot in her mouth in general. But as a black, I think she forgot as a black woman that she was in a interracial relationship just that quick, because I've seen a lot of people who do that in interracial relationships. They might have viewpoints about the people of that race, and then treat their significant other as if they are, the opposite, or they're the exception to that. But
they be like, not you though. Not you though.
While blanketing the whole entire race.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say she had a point. I mean, we know that, like, if we're comparing the two, like, they always say that, like, Asians are often looked at as, like, the model minority, but they also do experience certain levels of racism. So, like, I got what she was saying, but at the same time, I was like, this all over a towel. I also thought that, like, but I don't remember if the brother even showed a key card, or he was just like, she's good.
He showed his card
and gave the room number.
He had it.
Yeah.
But I just was like, at that point, she could have just smiled, took the towel, and walked away, and just been like, that she was giving me grief over the car, and it wouldn't have been no thing. But like, she really did start a whole thing in the little section of the pool. And
because even before Andrew's brother came up, like, it's like, Molly, you already over here too long trying to argue with the lady.
Right.
Go get the damn card.
The key card.
Yeah, just go get the card. Like, you already over here too long. Like, you want a problem at this point.
I didn't rewatch it. I didn't rewatch it, but did she give the towel to the couple before without the?
We don't know.
Yeah,
we don't know.
The scene got to them. It was already an exchange of the towel. Like, thank you.
Okay. Right.
And then they walked off. So you can't.
But she said that she didn't ask them for one. So I don't know if it's like something we're supposed to take her word for or whatever. But we didn't see them actually ask for the towel.
Yeah.
I think the issue with Victor, is that Andrew's brother name?
Yeah.
All right. I think the issue with his line of thinking was he not just questioned that situation, he questioned Molly's life experience with racism. He said, you may be making your life harder than it needs to be by always assuming. It's like, now you're not even questioning if I'm handling this wrong. You're questioning my way of thinking in general when it involves my experience as a black woman, which I don't think he should be speaking on.
Right.
But if Molly brought that up,
is it always about race?
Because I think Molly brought it up first.
Yeah, it is always about race. The shade.
But Molly brought up I think Molly brought up the life experience first. And so, and I can't specifically remember, but I think she did bring it up first. I don't specifically know what she said, but if she brought it up first, then he can make that general statement once she has made it past that towel incident.
But how does he get to question her experience as a black
woman? That's what I'm saying.
Are we saying that at the beginning of him doing all that, he said, I'm playing devil's advocate. So for me, I'm like, did he even feel this way, or was he just trying to get her ass riled up?
And it's, intention versus impact is a thing that I think that comes up. Like, maybe your intention was to have like a productive conversation about race amongst different types of minority people, but your impact is different. So you, as someone who honestly, like, when you talk about a black woman versus like any other color of minority, like, things are going to be different Like, she probably did go up there and they questioned her key card because she was Black. Because I have been on vacation and stuff like that has happened. So little things like that, like you don't went across the world. Well, I guess Mexico's not across the world, but you don't went on vacation and you still have to deal with, like, I'm a Black woman in another space, and you have someone else who's like, I too am a minority. But I don't think it's always about race, but for Black people, it is like always about race. So I just feel like the brother just should have just been quiet, let her like get her things out, because this every time you encounter like a situation where you feel oppressed or like someone does something like racially charged towards you, you're gonna have feelings, and like he should just let her sit in those feelings instead of being like, all right, well, what about, whatever it was.
I do have to agree with Connie on that, because I know everyone was saying like Molly made it worse than it is, and she got in the pool with attitude. Molly could have gotten in the pool with the attitude, had her little attitude, and moved on. She was then she even said, oh, you know how it is, and just left it as that. She was prompted for more questions. Like, it was more of a conversation. Like, I think it is fine. I mean, because that happens, like she said, it happens to us all the time. If I want to have attitude for all of 2 minutes because of what just happened, I don't have to explain myself, or I don't have to have a full conversation right then and there. I'm not even going to want to have a full conversation.
Especially with motherfuckers I just met.
Especially with somebody outside of the race.
Have a race
especially when you're trying to challenge it and make it seem like I'm blowing it out of proportion. Right. Like, yeah. Sometimes I think some situations just like a devil's advocate is not necessary. And like, I think it's especially when
you need to do all that. It was
unnecessary.
Yeah. But at the same time, but do we critique Molly for her over generation of them two? For me,
Molly's, like I said, she swung and missed on when she spoke on them, but I don't think that he should have been speaking on her experience or how she received it. She was the one who received that energy, whether he decided whether it's racist or not. That's not for him, and it's not for us to even decide if she overreacted, in my opinion, because you know how microaggressions affect us differently. Like you might handle it way different if somebody just flat out call you the N-word than you would if you get some shit that somebody try to do on the slide. Like,
you touch your hair, Jamaro.
But I think we can question, and I mean, I guess when she came back, but I think we can question it because the fact that they didn't even give the viewers the like absolute whether or not the key card was shown or not. I think we can question it, and I think we have every right to. Like, if you're gonna come out here and you're gonna be mad and you about to try to spoil vacation, I can definitely question it.
Like, but she had an attitude and she kept it. That's the thing. It didn't go left until Andrew's brother said something. There was nothing wrong with her getting in the pool with an attitude. The conversation didn't come from that. It came from Victor asking questions.
Yeah, because at the end, she wasn't even mad at the towel girl. She was mad at Victor.
Because I kind of remember it differently, because I feel like she made like a, just a random like, but he had to show his card. Like, I feel like she low-key kind of brought him into it. Not maybe directly, but they didn't have to show theirs. It's just like, she could have just like left him out of it. But I don't know. I feel like she brought him into it. I can't really remember, but
you know what I feel like is gonna fuck her up? I feel like what's gonna fuck her up is the fact that she qualified him and said that, oh, you're different. Like, somebody wrote up earlier and they were like, oh, Molly had an issue trying to figure out whether or not she wanted to date him in the first place. So now by you saying or admitting that he's different, are you accepting him as someone because of his swagger, because of the clothes he wears? Is he different because of that? Or are you really moving forward to accept this man for who he is and his Asian descent?
Molly ain't ready for that shit.
Oh, nah. You got a point, bruh. Because it's really like the difference between the acceptable Black friend that a lot of people would say that they have, or somebody that they didn't feel as comfortable about. Because when you look at Victor and Andrew, there's a distinct difference about how they carry themselves. So Molly probably feels like, oh, well, if I'm a dating Asian, this is the kind of Asian I'm a date versus that kind.
Right.
Yeah.
Facts.
Very much so, making sure that she's comfortable and the kind of I feel like it's an assimilationist way, but he makes sure that that he always speaks English whenever Molly's around. And in the argument, she was like, I'm still here, speak English. She was like, whoa, like they I feel like, you know, that's their language. Like, I think it's cool. They're not talking about you just because they're doing that. And that's your man's too. So you really telling your man you gotta speak English around you? Nothing but.
Wait, you mean in the pool? Because if there's an argument going on and then like people start talking to each other in a different language right in front of me, I'm feel some kind of way too. Probably like it's one thing like we out and about and y'all.
But he goes out of his way. Yeah. He goes out of his way to make sure that he doesn't do that around her. He was on the phone with his brother speaking whatever their language is,
right?
Mandarin.
Yeah.
He was speaking that, and then as soon as Molly comes in, he was like, "Hey, Molly's here." And now we're speaking in English.
Right. But I'm talking about in the pool. I know that they kind of got offended by it, but I'm like, if we're all having a conversation and you know I can't understand that language, like.
I understand.
I don't think he did it intentionally. Like, no one's thinking about that in the moment. Like, if that's his native tongue, that's his native tongue. Like, and it's a lot of people who, in the moment when they get upset, they just speak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but once again, it's a reminder. Like, y'all are upset, but like, I can't communicate with y'all. I don't understand what you're saying.
I think at that point they were communicating with each other directly.
Like I said, it's different. If him and his brother, like, if I walked in and he was on the phone with his brother and they're talking in their language, that's fine. You don't gotta switch it up for me,
but he went out of his way.
Moment, yeah, he did. But in this moment, when we're having a heated discussion that's already revolved around me. You know what I'm saying? And then y'all start speaking in a different language. I'm going to say the same thing too. Can we keep it in English so like I can be included in this conversation that's already
I get what you're saying right there.
Yeah, I didn't think her asking that they speak English in the middle of their disagreement to be like something that should have been a huge deal, but I guess it was.
I don't know. I feel like at that point in time, in that point in the argument, everything is taboo because we already touched on race and shit. So then you telling me to speak in English, like, I don't know. I feel like everything is just like can be taken misconstrued.
But
that's why she took it misconstrued in the moment, because she like, the fuck is y'all talking about? We're literally at this point in an argument, and she's basically like, what the fuck is y'all saying now? That's essentially that's what she was saying. Like,
but I think it also comes back to the type of Asian she's dating. The type of Asian she's dating never speaks that language whenever you're around. Even when he greeted his brother, when you met them, his brother was speaking to him, talking about his clothes in their native tongue. But when Andrew responds, he responds in English. So she's probably never even seen him, you know, have full-blown conversations, and especially whenever it's a heated moment. But I think it does play back to this is the first time both of them are realizing that they're in an interracial relationship, and there's like a language barrier too. That they never had to address that, at least not with us.
Y'all know, I don't know if y'all have ever been mad before in a disagreement, but y'all know in the moment
we have it.
You know, in the moment you ain't thinking about all that shit. You ain't level-headed at that moment. Once you done started talking and you win it, so she's like, I'm not thinking about when we first got here and how you was overextending yourself to me. Speak motherfucking English so I can understand what the hell is going on.
But also, from a calm point of view, if you're trying to defend yourself to someone, how are you supposed to defend yourself if you don't know what they're saying to you? How are you how was she supposed to defend herself? She doesn't know what this person.
Oh, no. I understand. It was, once again, it was the approach with Molly that made it seem more heated, because I know you mad, but then you're like, speak fucking English. Oh, whoa. That's everybody's reaction. Like,
so it wasn't the fact that that she was asking, it was how she asked them to speak English.
In that moment, it was already heated, so it wasn't going to come off well, period.
Right.
Everybody was mad.
Even though they were arguing earlier, they were still talking in English. The brother decided to switch it over to Mandarin.
Right.
So the brother has always initiated the Mandarin.
He Chinese?
I guess.
They're from JoJo.
Or is he Vietnamese? I have no idea, honestly. I really don't know what he is.
They said he was from JoJo the first episode.
Huh?
From where?
Shut up, Tony. No, they did. Don't listen to Tony. Tony be lying, boy.
Korean, honestly.
Don't listen to him.
My subtitles say Chinese.
So we'll just say their native language.
Thank you, Connie. Let's just keep it simple.
Say their native language.
But Molly got me weak. She said, Andrew, get your fucking brother.
Well, that was funny to me.
That was funny.
I ate that shit up.
Boy, that was your ass.
He followed that ass out that pool, though. He followed that ass out that pool.
He did.
So my favorite scene of the whole show, the next morning, Molly is still upset about the previous day. Andrew spoke to his brother and he apologized. Andrew says his brother can be an a-hole sometimes, but that it was his brother and things cannot fester. At that moment, I was like, oh, Andrew really be trying to show Molly different ways to handle situations.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew seems to be bringing Molly a new way of thinking. She finally realizes her snapping moments she has recently had to be addressed, and she reaches out to Dr. Rhonda in a powerful scene, which features her alone on the beach. Did y'all enjoy that scene?
Yes, and Jay was so excited about it too.
I like that.
He said it was very hard because he said it was one of the most challenging shots because they were losing daylight. I said, that's so sweet.
Okay. It was a very good scene. I think it was nice to see Molly recognize that she has a problem.
Well, devil's advocate. This ain't
boy.
the first time that Molly has recognized she has a problem and then started going back to therapy only to not address her real shit during therapy. I hope that's not what's about to happen now, but it's been pretty cyclical since the beginning of this whole show. Molly, goes through ish. She recognizes I got a problem eventually, and then tries to take steps to work through it. But if y'all remember last time they showed Molly's therapist, Molly had been going to therapy for quite some time. And this is in the midst of her basically, going through all that ish with Dro. And the last thing that was said from her and her therapist, she had mentioned Dro, and her therapist said, who is that? So Molly had been going through all of that stuff and avoiding the biggest, problem that she had in her personal life, which was the situation with Dro, and not even addressing that within therapy. So I think it can be productive if she's actually willing to address what she's going through and not just try to do it because she feels like it's making her a better person.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because we were all screaming at the TV. Like, it was 2 seasons ago. Well, the last time we saw her in therapy, we didn't see her in therapy last season.
I don't think so.
But, everyone was like, girl, you're completely every session, it would just go over her head.
Mm-hmm.
We might be seeing a different Molly now, inspired by the lovely Asian bae.
Okay.
All right, so Andrew and Molly return. They run into Lawrence. Lawrence and Andrew meet for the first time. It was an awkward encounter to me.
I was getting mad.
It was weird.
Does he think they slept together?
They not friends.
I think that they didn't know whether they should hug or not, and that was
friends.
Weird. I don't know. It's just confusion.
But we see Lawrence make a call, and then
he look fine AF though.
Watch the sneak peek, you know who it is that he called, Miss Issa.
Pull up.
What I've been waiting for all season.
Why?
I believe episode 8 will be the.
It's so predictable. It's predictable season.
We need some predictable niceness.
We talked about this.
What's predictable?
We talked about this on
I've
episode.
seen some people say that they think that Lawrence possibly has gotten a job offer in San Francisco. He's trying to figure out if he has a reason to stay.
I saw that.
He went to San Francisco for a job. He definitely was doing something for work.
He ain't got a reason.
I didn't think
he don't have a reason.
I want to see what they're gonna talk about.
I think he was in San Francisco for a job, personally.
Not San Francisco, but Frisco.
Frisco, yeah.
Oh,
is that a thing?
So,
I was gonna ask Shekinah. I've never heard someone say Frisco.
I've heard of Frisco before, but
it must be a California thing.
So you might have to be from there. You might have to be from there. It does look like they definitely are vibing at that bar. I don't know what it means, being that we know Issa was just with Nathan in this scene. Like, my girl getting it in. I love it. I love to see it.
I don't know. To me, the vibes look like Issa was genuinely there, you know, as a friend, and looked like Lawrence had other intentions.
That might be
well, I don't know. Maybe he like wants to pick her brain. Maybe they was in a relationship for a long time, so she probably knows him very well. So maybe he was just like, you know, he values her opinion and he wanted to run something by her. I don't know. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Because it seemed like she was just casually like, you know, what do you want to talk to me about?
Right.
After all the kikis, like, so what's up?
Right.
So you have something to talk to me about?
Unless
she showed what she came for.
I don't agree with that, but that's just my opinion. Unless you have the intentions of wanting to work something out, or like we said, see where it's going. I really don't care how long I've known you. Like, you're my ex for a reason. Like,
they can't be cool.
Yeah. Are you talking about the only way that they can hit you up is on a romantic tip?
I mean, if I'm proven wrong, then I'll definitely say I'm wrong. But here, I think it's always been an underlying factor of he's not over her at times she wasn't over him. I don't think they're going to work out as just friends, even if we want it to be that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't. You know, I don't know. I'm in between. Like, I think they do well as friends.
I think they have. I'd like for that. Yeah. Like you said, it may just be me wanting that because I do. I don't want them to be romantic, but I think it could work.
Yeah,
I guess that was my next question. Can they be? But that's the thing. Like, have we really seen a genuine friendship, like a lasting friendship? Have we seen that from them?
I don't think it'll ever be a problem between Lawrence and Issa as far as like their friendship goes. It's when other spouses get involved that's going to be the problem. And
exactly,
if you see that, as soon as I say, you know, that was my ex of 6 years, and you still cool, like it's like these things will start just festering. Not festering, excuse me. Will start developing and festering. That damn
Andrew.
That damn word. You start developing in your brain, like maybe about the relationship, and I don't know.
But you know what? I didn't realize
it's not ever going to be them.
I didn't realize this until somebody said it yesterday. But like, it's only been a year and some change, like since this entire show has happened. Like, season 1 was Issa's like 29th birthday, and then we just celebrated Issa's 30th last season, and now we're like 4 months in after the block party. So to your point, like, there are still feelings that are very fresh. Like, after you've been in a relationship for X amount of years, like, I mean, anything can happen.
Yeah, I kind of like you saying that because I think that's the whole the friendship thing. Like, when people break up, I feel like I know a lot of people, like, that ain't always that's kind of like a very theoretical thing. Like, a lot of people aren't really like friends with the ex. I think people get cordial and friends like mixed up. A lot of people aren't like friends. It's like, oh, hey, but you'll see a lot of people just kind of like be ready to go when like they ex, especially with the history that Lawrence and Issa have together. They just like, man, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, even some mature people, you know, self-aware people, everybody's not like, yeah, we can definitely be friends. It just Issa and Lawrence are either gonna be together or they're gonna be cordial. But the friends, I don't think they really gonna be friends.
I'm cool.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're gonna be like kicking and hanging out. So
I'm here for what they've been doing.
I'm cool with cordiality. It's perfect.
It's fine.
I want to know how my boo Nathan is gonna fit into all of this. Honestly,
I won't penetrate.
She's picking Nathan. She's picking
like a triangle in the square column. That's how he about to fit in.
He deserves more.
He deserves more.
He does.
Shout out to Andrew standing up for that nigga.
That's why I was like, Andrew, don't let her talk about your friend like that because she don't know him. And let her know she don't know him.
Andrew will check when necessary. I told
you. Nah, he better. If that's his boy, for real. Yeah, you got
like, how she gonna talk about him? Like, that man know him. You don't know him.
And I love that he's not with the drama.
I get upset over Nathan.
Mind your business.
You do, clearly.
Mind your business. Mind your business.